view from the chair. Hi, I'm Patrice Jordan Robinson, your Memphis City Council Chairwoman. A View from the Chair is a show designed to bring you the very latest information about your Memphis City Council and city government, and the many working parts that make up our Citizens First approach to delivering first-rate city services. Stick around. We'll be back with my guest, Memphis City Councilman and Vice Chair Frank Colvett Jr., who represents District 2. A View from the Chair on the Kudzukian Network.
Our experience with Kudzukian has been amazing. They are creative, innovative, flexible, work really hard, and they find the answer to every problem we put in front of them, every challenge we offer. We couldn't have better partners than Kudzukian.
We're back with A View from the Chair. And I'm your host, Councilwoman Patrice Robinson. And as promised, my esteemed colleague, Frank Colvett, is joining me. Councilman Colvett, welcome to A View from the Chair.
Thank you for having me, Chair Lady.
Oh, it's awesome for you to be here today. It's such a beautiful day. Mm-hmm. Councilman Colvett, can I call you Frank on this show?
I insist.
All right, Frank. Share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm a lifelong Memphian. Born, raised, and I plan to retire and pass on from great city of Memphis, Tennessee. I've been in the family business all my life and have added, I am now a realtor to all the work that we're doing on our side jobs as Memphis City Councilman.
So that means you get no sleep, right?
Sleep's overrated. There's no question sleep is overrated. It's in the same way that people say the Memphis City Council is a part-time job for their elected officials. It's a labor of love, and it truly is a full-time job to do it right. What about you, though? Now, tell our listeners and our audience a little bit about you.
So I'm a lifelong Memphian. I graduated from Whitehaven High School.
The Whitehaven High School.
Yeah, you got it right. And I'm also a graduate of Memphis State University. And then I'm also a graduate of the University of Tennessee, too. So we got a little orange and white versus blue and white going on.
In other words, we just don't talk during basketball season.
That's right.
Is that correct? That's perfectly fair.
I have served on the school board, so please excuse my sinus condition here, but I've served on the school board for 13 years. I've been with you on the council 4 years, and it has really been great. My children were raised here in Memphis. My husband is a native of Grenada, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And
We got one.
That's right. And everyone that I see that have been invited or worked here in Memphis, they love it so much they want to come back. But just talking about me, I love my city. I love the district that I've represented since 2000 on the school board as well as the city council. I am blessed to be there with them, working together to improve our city as well as our community.
Well, and you bring up a great point there. You know, your husband's from Grenada.
Yes.
So many people we meet, I'm from somewhere else. I moved to Memphis, and I can't leave. They just fall in love with our city, and that's been the best part of my experience as a councilman, meeting so many folks that turn around and say, hey, I'm so glad I found this great city on the bluff.
And it's a great place to raise your children. I love to travel and go places. But I tell people everywhere I go, the best place to raise your children is right here in the Bluff City of Memphis.
Oh, no question about it. But we also have a lot of work to do on the council as chairman. You know, one of the things I see you working on the most now that we're going into budget season, we're having to balance so many different issues. Just out of curiosity, and you're in charge of the show. Here I am asking you the questions. But in terms of being the chairman on the council, how do you feel like you balance all of the many different things and actions going on, the different issues coming up during a council meeting?
So let me say that we have a great staff that works for us, the Memphis City Council. They coordinate everything for me. They sit down with me and talk to me about the different segments and what's going on, and so that I can stay abreast of everything. It is a lot of moving parts, Frank. This is supposed to be a part-time job, but basically for me, it's 7 days a week because I'm out Saturdays and Sundays. I'm at the council office even more. I'm on the streets, on the grounds every day. And this added responsibility of ensuring that the council members have the information that they need. We have new members that need additional training. It has really been a labor of additional work. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it's doable, but you really have to have people that are dedicated. And I am dedicated to the community and to this work.
Well, there's no question of your dedication. And as chairman, there's so many additional hours. I, too, agree that our staff is phenomenal, what they do to prepare us. But when I was thinking about what we might talk about today, how you've educated and how we've all worked with these new council members, 6 new council members?
You're absolutely correct.
Coming from all parts of the city, my takeaway has been on our experience, especially you as chairman, is how to bring them up to speed. Because I feel like mentally and emotionally, they're drinking from a fire hydrant, just like we were 4 years ago. And now that we're the veterans, I'm finding trying to go into teacher mode and say, this is what you might want to pay attention to. This is what you need to worry about. This can wait a little bit. But I'm excited about these new members and how they've really jumped in both feet and are spending the time all council. I mean, Council Tuesdays, they're here at 8 o'clock and 8:30 for the very first committee meeting and going all the way through to learn the job. So I've been very impressed with them. What are your thoughts?
I'm very impressed with them. But 2 weeks ago, we spent time, and you were there at our retreat. And we used one of the locations right here in Memphis at the Boys and Girls Club on the corner of Walker, right across the street from Lemoyne-Owen College. It was a great facility and a great afternoon. Well, all morning, rather, until the afternoon. We had an opportunity to share the things that the council members, the new members, said that they needed to know. And we had great speakers, great presentations. But the things that stood out to me the most, they really understand their role as council members and what kind of concerns that citizens can share with us on a daily basis. So we get calls and complaints to the council office all the time. We had a game. I thought it was really wonderful. So if a person has this problem, who handles it? The city government, the county government, or some other agency? And that was an excellent game so that we can just remind them that these are the things that we do. We can connect them with the right agency and moving forward. We had someone to talk to us about our charter, which is really important. We were elected to be the legislative body, and I think we spend more time, and you talk about drinking out a fire hose, we put out more fires than we do talking about legislation. And I thought that segment was really great to kind of bring us back to reviewing our ordinances, where we are, what changes may need to be made, so that we're actually working in the 21st century. Our new members have done an awesome job of being responsible for their committees. I told them when I assigned the committees to them, those assignments were so important that they had to go in, visit those areas, and they were to be our subject matter experts for the council, for their area, and they're doing just that.
And being drinking from a fire hose, because I remember the very first committee, the very first day, literally we were in the middle of the appointments from the mayor, and it became a very big issue going through that. So it became a question of, I call them our freshmen, going through Robert's Rules of Order, keeping things on track. But it's also, I think, very important for our listeners to understand the legislative body. When you call your councilman, that is one of 13 votes. It is very much a team effort to do what we need to do for the great city of Memphis.
Let's hold that thought. We'll be right back with more A View from the Chair and my guest, Councilman Frank Colvett Jr.
See you soon.
Jazz, America's own original musical art form. When did it start? Who were and are some of the major players? How do you distinguish what kind of jazz you're listening to? We talk about the great and lesser-known artists, songs and tunes, the instruments, and the social impact jazz has had on world culture since its beginning at the start of the 20th century.
Riffin' on Jazz on the Kudzukian Network. Kudzukian!
We're back with more A View from the Chair. And of course, I'm your host, Councilwoman Patrice Robinson, and they call me Chair Lady. And my guest is Councilmember Frank Colvett Jr., who is our Vice Chair. And we are covering some district concerns during this segment. Councilman Colvett, Memphis is seeing great investment in our downtown core. How do you think we ought to work together as a council to ensure the economic development touches all of our communities, not just downtown?
Well, and again, thank you for having me, Ed. As I'm fond of saying, I know the best part about you, Patrice, is that you don't like being called Chair Lady or anything like that. You're Patrice. And
absolutely.
But I also, as I always remind you, you've earned the right and the title. You are Chair Lady.
Thank you.
In terms of development, I chair, of course, your Planning and Zoning Committee, and that's where all of the projects that are being proposed for Memphis, whether they are a change in, say, a zoning regulation, a plan approval, or the massive, for example, union development downtown, that's where that all comes into my committee that we then review and send to the full council with a recommendation. Memphis is so on the move right now in terms of the massive development and the dollars that are coming in because of the business-friendly environment of our city. You look at a Union Road that's almost $1 billion. That has to be a quasi-public, private investment, but that's the best part of it. We put our public dollars where our mouth is, but the private sector is putting their money
okay, Frank, let me interrupt you just a minute. How do we spread this wealth across our community, not just downtown? That's what our listeners want to know.
Very true. One thing we've done with the Memphis 3.0 program is identifying hotspots. The problem we run into is our developers only see certain areas that they naturally gravitate towards, say the Poplar Corridor downtown. What 3.0 does is identify hotspots all over the city that we are willing as a government body to assist them with in varying degrees to promote that development. So certain areas that have not seen a lot of action all of a sudden have an Amazon coming in.
Yes.
Certain areas of town are having regrowth of development, which means great jobs and great opportunities.
So let me talk just a little bit about those anchors that you talked about. There are anchors in each of the council districts. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
And what can citizens do to advertise or draw these investors to their community?
Well, I think in all cases, they come to their council member, they express their interest and share, and then as the developers come into planning and zoning, they share that those anchors are open and ready for business. I think we as council members need to promote that to our local developers and our out-of-town developers to come visit.
Councilman Colvett, I know we have these wonderful developments going downtown, and you've been talking about the anchors in all of our districts, but I'm sure you want to know what's going on in Whitehaven, my district.
I absolutely do. And tell us about Elvis Presley Enterprises and all those great community projects you're working on.
So the community in Whitehaven, but District 3 is not just Whitehaven. I don't want anybody to think that my concentration is just there in Whitehaven. I have Whitehaven, Oak Haven, Hickory Hill, Fox Meadows as well. But the anchor in the Whitehaven area has seen a lot of growth because of Graceland. Graceland is there, and we have been using it to move and draw other people to our community. Let me tell you that a school in our district is a level 5 school for the state of Tennessee, one of the best, the Whitehaven High School. That's on that Elvis Presley corridor. We have the Davis YMCA, where Elvis Presley actually practiced for the Blue Hawaii movie, and we're now doing some new things there, and we want the public to know that we're going to build a new Y on Elvis Presley Boulevard. In the Whitehaven Shopping Center, we have new development there too, and we're looking forward to a rebuilt Piccadilly. We now have another sit-down restaurant, and it's called Margaritas. The food is delicious. I have not tried the margaritas yet.
Whenever you're ready.
Whenever you're ready. We have several other new restaurants. We have 2 new juice bars. We're anticipating by this summer 2 coffee shops in Whitehaven area, one of which is Starbucks and the other is called Muggies. And I am so excited about the development right there. But we also have done something really wonderful with an old building in Whitehaven called Southbrook Mall. It is no longer the Southbrook Mall. With investments from the state and the city government, we have reestablished and done some upgrades to that building, and now it's a town center for the citizens of Whitehaven in our district. It is awesome. We've also moved in a young youth group that's called Blues City Culture so that our children can learn the arts in the community, who have an opportunity to participate in the arts right there in the Whitehaven area. But guess what else is in Whitehaven?
What else is in Whitehaven?
FedEx Corporation. We have FedEx corporate office right there. And FedEx has made investments in our community as well. But you can talk more about what they've done across the city.
I can, because FedEx is certainly Memphis, and Memphis is certainly FedEx. One of the things I would say about Whitehaven, as a realtor, we're selling a lot of homes in Whitehaven. The home values are stable and improving. So one of the things we're finding as a lot of folks come looking in Memphis, they're looking in Whitehaven because of all the great things their council lady is doing. And one of the things I think all our constituents want to know, do you really know everybody in Whitehaven by their first name?
I don't.
Well, I think that's also the job of a councilman, as a council lady. Even though you're chairman, even though you have a lot of work, you have so many things going on in your district, and you're always very, very tuned in, not just to Whitehaven, but to Hickory Hill and all parts of your district. And that's, as a councilman, what's so important is, and let's call it what it is, making sure the development and the government funds come to our districts to continue to improve them and lift everyone up.
Well, Frank, I want to change the conversation a little bit. We don't have but a minute. But in our next segment, let's talk more about public safety. Let's talk about those initiatives across the city and what citizens can do to help us in that effort. It is so important that we do that. I also want to share in the next segment is just a little bit, bring people up to date about where we are in our budget process so that they'll understand what we look at, why we look at it, and we can't have everything that we want.
We have $1 billion worth of issues in Memphis. We only have $700 million to spend. It's a large amount of money, but public safety requires a big chunk of it.
That's absolutely correct. And we have to engage our citizens in the budget process, and that's something that we need to talk about so the citizens will know about that. We'll be right back here on A View from the Chair on the Kudzukian Network.
I like the way he said funking around.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
I did like that, but he said the older.
I'm gonna start using it.
He said the older electorate is funky.
Well, basically, it's what he's saying. He's saying that midterm elections
funking around,
and that's true
with our future.
Because it's noted. And I think you absolutely
don't let
midterm elections.
Don't let them funk up the future.
Oh my God!
On the Kudzukian Network.
We're back with A View from the Chair. And I'm your host, Councilwoman Patrice Robinson. And my guest today is Vice Chair Frank Colvett Jr. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about all things Memphis. Frank, let's talk about safety in Memphis, and especially in our districts, and how that's shaping up with the Sky Cop cameras and the reality the cameras can't save the world. Can we just spend a few minutes on that?
Absolutely. I don't think it matters where you live or what your income or where you come from. Public safety is important to everyone. It's not the trouble just on your street. It's the trouble on any street around you. So one of the things the council does that I really like is the Sky Cop cameras that we're putting out. While it does not catch a criminal per se and put them in handcuffs, it does give us the video evidence to be able to find that criminal and put them in handcuffs. Of course, we have the Shot Spotter. We have our neighborhood watch programs that everyone, as I always say, when you run a red light and you get a ticket, that's helping fund our neighborhood watch program. But I think at our core as the Memphis City Council and our budget, public safety is the most important piece of the puzzle in terms of our budget. It's very important that we reach our minimum quota of what we need for police officers, our minimum quota, what we need for our fire department, everything we need to keep our public safe. So what we need to do as a council is, come budget time, take a very strong look at what the police director and what the fire director bring to us in terms of their needs, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be safe.
Well, let me share something here. I want the citizens to realize that we need as many tools in our toolbox to deter crime in our community. One of the most important things is to have a neighborhood watch group. We need citizens talking to each other, and we need them to determine together that we're not going to allow anyone to come into our community and upset our peace.
Well, that's absolutely correct, because, I mean, if you think about it, it's not like it was when we grew up where you lived in the same house for 20 and 30 years. Neighborhoods are so transient. People move in for 2 or 3 years and they move on, or whatever went out. So my point is that neighborhood watch programs bring neighbors together. And if our grant program there allows them to put an email chain together, an Instagram, a next door post, all those kinds of things that introduce Patrice to Frank. We're neighbors. And hey, by the way, I don't recognize that car that just pulled into your driveway.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I want the community to know. And looking at the SkyCop cameras, the blue flashing lights deters crime. Just like you having a safety system, cameras around your own home, a burglar alarm system in your home, it deters crime, but it doesn't stop anybody. You remember the movies, The Pink Panther? Mm-hmm. He could steal anything. I don't care what kind of security you set up, but it's to help our police officers to identify those people who come in and interrupt what's going on in our community and not doing the right thing.
If you think about it, it's kind of hard to argue that you didn't in fact steal that when there you are grabbing what I saw. Literally, I'm watching one of the trucks and the guy's pulling the equipment off of it, and there all of a sudden the camera got their license plate. It didn't stop the crime, but it sure helped us catch the knucklehead that was trying to steal from us. So right. It deters and it helps the police do their job.
And I also want them to know that we're watching you when you're dumping tires all over the city. We've got little cameras here, so I suggest you all start watching where you dump those tires. It is illegal to do so, and we need to talk about that. But I want to move on to our budget. So our total budget is what, Frank?
It was, I believe, $711 million last year.
That's absolutely correct. And this year, the mayor said that we're going to have a lot of challenges because we have a reduced amount of money that will be coming from the state. And we're really going to have to really fan some really do some real tight budgeting, just like you have to do at home sometimes. But my concern is, and I'm really concerned about this, if you don't have enough money to do what you need to do, so you have to cut some things back. And I need to know, and we need to know, and the council needs to know, what are the citizens willing to give up? What are they willing for us to trim down some so that we can get most of the things that they want to make this city a vibrant city, and one where we can recruit business to come here, because they're telling me every day they want jobs that pay not just living wages. They want to make money where they can survive and send their children to college and do the things that they would normally do, buy homes and live a wealthy life.
Well, I think with all family and family budgets, everybody wants to own a Porsche and vacation in the Bahamas for 3 months out of the year. But 99% of us can't do that.
That's correct.
Like their budget. And I hope the citizens will come down to council and get involved, because I think once you realize what all we're paying for and what all they get for their money, not just public safety, but our libraries, our parks, the art that you see, and most importantly, asphalt and trash. Those are the kind of the number 3 and number 4 huge issues that make us a good, clean, vibrant city.
So how much money or percentage of dollars do we spend just on police and fire?
I believe the number was 65%.
That's absolutely correct.
The percentage.
So we don't have a whole lot to divide up for those other areas. And we get calls every day about potholes and repaving streets, which is an astronomical amount of money. So let's talk about the plan that the city has presented to the council over the years. You remember about how they plan to do streets and how many lane miles we have. You want to share that with us?
Absolutely. You know, if you took all the lane miles in the city of Memphis and stretched them out, you could go from Memphis to L.A. and back. I think it's like 6 times. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of asphalt. And I think Chair Lady brings up a very valid point. The way I approach our budget is public safety first, and then we see what we have left for the other necessaries. And I think it's very important to note that through very tight fiscal discipline, we've doubled our asphalt budget since you and I joined 4 years ago.
Give us a hand.
Yeah. and I think in terms of recruiting business to get those jobs that our citizens deserve, you know, it's not just important to have a good police and fire department. When we're recruiting, you know, you don't want to bring somebody in and have them bouncing around in their car over bad asphalt. So I think there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle of the budget. And the more the citizens get involved, they realize that we're stretching it as hard and as tight as we can. But we could always use their input because we're not the best ideas and the only good ideas. That if a citizen turns around and looks at our budget and says, hey, Frank, why do y'all spend this much on that? That we turn around and say, that's a great question. Let's ask. Let's dig into it, because our budget books are, 6 inches high.
You're absolutely correct. What I want to share with the citizens right now is that you need to pay attention to the budget. You need to let us know those things that are really important to you, because now is the time to share that information with us. I want to thank my Vice Chair, Frank Colvett, for joining me here on A View from the Chair. I'll be right back on the Kudzukian Network with some parting thoughts.
R&R on Sports.
Brother Rashad McCants, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Thanks for having me, brother.
It's R&R on Sports.
As Councilwoman of the Memphis City Council, I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you for listening in to us today. As I walk through the grocery stores, visit churches, on the streets, people stop me all the time and they thank me and thank the council for the work that we do to move our city forward. Now, they also complain, and I appreciate that too, because a complaint is actually a gift to the city so that we can make those things right. I want to thank the staff for all that they do at the city to make the services for the citizens of Memphis the thing that's really great about our city. We don't want any citizen to feel that we don't care about you. We care. We're here to work for you every day. We are your legislative body. We will come back to you every week from now on. I'll see you next time right here on A View from the Chair on the Kudzukian Network. A View from the Chair.
Recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kudzukian.